to tell her. That doesn't seem right.
All right, we are live. I'm coming at you with 5. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gavin Richard Presents on G-Boot 2786, my channel. I hope everyone is doing great on this glorious Friday afternoon / evening, wherever you are, whoever you are. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, is it me on my screen? Seems darker. I don't know what's going on there. Just eating a little snack. Got somebody in the chat room. Must be Squeaky G or Regina. Put something in the chat box if you can. See who you are. Guys, this video, trying to get a little more people in here, but we're going to get started. I always say I'm trying not to make this video long. I am not. There's just a lot of news that's been going on. A lot's been going on this week. Please subscribe to this channel. If you're a first-time subscriber, G-Boot 2786, please donate. I have, to keep my channel going, I have Google Pay, which is my email, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. We also have the Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire, or ESQ, abbreviated. Yeah, who else is in the chat room? What's up? I'm OG Flax. What's going on, Love Cap? All right. Got a lot we're going to get into, guys. Just keep coming in. Keep coming in. What's up, Nakia? All right. Couple of things, guys. Just to inform you, if those who don't know, Sister Nicole from Nicole's View, shout out to her as always. They have been sponsoring donations. They've been, well, not sponsored, but we have been trying to seek donations. She has with regards to Monday's court appearance in the Bill Cosby matter. Here's, for those that don't know, Bill Cosby's appeal is going to be heard by the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, the Court of Appeals Court, this Monday at 9 a.m. So if you can, and I put a link to the article from Stacey Brown, if you're able to go, but they've been taking donations for people to go up there because it is costly, you know, flying and traveling, especially if you're out of town, if you don't live nearby. If you can go there, if you are close there, you should go and try and sit in the courtroom if you can. Now, just so you be sure, you know, the courtroom rules are also have been posted. Of course, you can't have your cell phone on concerning Bill Cosby's appeal, and hopefully it seems like he has a great chance of getting an appeal than it needs to. There were some amicus briefs that were filed by the state to try to keep Dr. Cosby in jail, filed by the state attorney general. There was also some, hold on a second, guys, I just want to, other amicus briefs, as I've stated before in a previous video. Those are friendly briefs of the court that were filed by RAIN, which is a sex assault group. Who else? There was also, and RAIN is a nonprofit, right, where they responded, a reply of appellant by Bill Cosby. He has 6 attorneys, by the way, working on this appeals, and he apparently has a good chance with it. Of course, and some people are actually changing their tune. Dr. Boyce Watkins, who you guys have watched, you know, he was very anti-Cosby at one point. I've seen or heard of videos that he's done on his Facebook and especially on Vlad TV, where, you know, he thought Bill Cosby was guilty and, you know, that he's a bad guy. And Bill Cosby, my whole thing with it, and I've always said this, excuse me for eating in front of y'all, is that in America, you're innocent until proven guilty, and of course, you're entitled to due process and a fair trial with that. And when you have a judge allowing 5 other accusers to testify without giving reasons for doing so, when you have witnesses making outbursts during the trial in lieu of the jury. And also outside, when you have these protesters gathered there, like the woman who was naked, half naked, that jumped out to him, with her titties out, spray painted with writings and all of this feminist verbiage and shit. You know, that certainly prejudices the jury. The other thing, too, is when you have a juror sitting on the trial and he says, we can all go home, he's guilty, and the judge denied the juror from the request from the defense attorney, Tom Mesereau. When you deny his request to have this juror removed and replaced with an alternate who happened to be black, that raises some serious questions. Was this fair and impartial? And of course, black media is not going to talk about it because most black media in America is controlled and is corporate. Now, speaking of corporate and corporations, the topic of this video, and I'll have more to talk on a Bill Cosby situation on a later date. We will definitely have people that are going to be there, people I know that's probably going to sit in and we can discuss more about it. But I wanted to talk to you all about this racist rule that was created by the NCAA. We call it the Rick Paul rule. Now, those of you who don't know who Rick Paul is, is an agent. And he has worked, he's a sports agent, and he has worked specifically with a lot of the biggest names in basketball, in the NBA. LeBron James is his client, as well as Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, John Wall, Ben Simmons, and 2019 first-round draft picks, Darius Garland and Darius Bazley. Now, keep in mind, most of these men, the men that I have named, did not attend a historically black college and university, and that's going to play in a second. But of course, the HBCUs are under NCAA control. Now, they implemented this rule earlier this week, labeled the Rick Paul rule. And what is racist and offensive about the rule, guys, is that the regulation requires that agents interested in requesting players who are considering declaring for the draft, the NBA draft, have to have three things. They must have a bachelor's degree. They must be certified with the National Basketball Association for at least 3 years. And they have to take a comprehensive in-person exam at NCAA headquarters in Indianapolis. Now, a lot of people have lambasted this rule. Big names, including LeBron, he's come out against it. Kevin Hart has come out against it. And why they've come out is because Paul never attended college, and he's one of the agents that is going to be affected by this rule, and obviously the most prominent. And this is a black man that basically didn't go to college, didn't, obviously go to have the education that many people think that you need to be an agent, but he succeeded. He has succeeded his authority and his occupation as an agent, having the biggest name clients in history, in basketball history. He is making a lot of money and he's changed the game. And it's part of the reason why we labeled this video moving the goalpost. You see, every time a black man tries to get further, the white man has to move goalpost or change the rules as we go along when the game is started. It would kind of be like if we played football. It's like what you saw with the Saints-Rams game. And the NFL says helmet to helmet is a foul, a personal foul. Pass interference is a foul. Well, you saw that, obviously, in that game, and the referees were looking at it and failed to call and say, oh, no, we're not calling that. Well, that would be unfair. That would be, and it's not so much that the rule has changed, but the rule was not enforced. But nevertheless, if you took away the pass interference rule, let's say if that is a rule and you didn't call it correctly and you took it, and let's say you play it, you call it during the game and then afterwards you take it away. Well, how is that on an even playing field? How impartial and fair and balanced? Many people have lambasted this rule. The Undefeated wrote an article, very interesting, that you guys should check out. It's called the NCAA doesn't have a Rich Paul problem. It has a problem with black men. The move to regulate agents looks like another effort to police black mobility and freedom. And many people have blasted it. Kevin Hart said, "The world is so afraid of groundbreakers. This is beyond sad and major BS." James, Paul's biggest client, longtime friend and confidant, could only laugh at the NCAA's energy, saying nothing will stop this movement and culture over here. Chris Rock explained the context of the NCAA mandated years ago. "We're only 10% of the population," he said on 2004 is Never Scared. "We're 90% of the Final Four," which, of course, is true. Only basketball must adhere to the new NCAA mandate. The actual text doesn't mention race. Nevertheless, the writing is not just written on the wall. It has been carved. It is a race-neutral rule that isn't race-neutral. This comes with historical precedents that the NCAA knows all too well. One of the worst-kept secrets in sports is how top-tier college basketballs and football programs directly benefited from desegregation. Before integration, the vast majority of top black athletes had no choice but to attend historically black colleges and universities. Once the larger and richer, predominantly white schools began to integrate, HBCUs couldn't compete. But there's been a parallel development too. The graduation rates for black athletes at top sports programs remains consistently and embarrassing low. Well, that goes to the fact that many of the top tier athletes do not finish college. When they're in their sophomore year of college, you're seeing a lot of our kids, a lot of these young men are declaring draft eligibility for the NBA. Why? Because they want that money. They feel they can, they feel they can make more money, obviously, doing this than they do in college. And we know that college, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but it can be a debt trap. You go into college and you major in your degree, your program and degree, and yet when you come out, you can't find work, or you find work, but it's not what you thought it would be, and you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars paying back on loans when your degree never paid off. Even as an attorney, I can tell you guys, it's not a glamorous life when you're just coming out. A lot of people think you become an attorney and you're going to make $100,000 a year or $200,000 just coming out the gate. A dentist actually has a better chance of making six figures than an attorney does in their first year. Now, it depends on the firm. If you join a firm, but especially then some may give you, starting out as an associate, you might make 75 or better. And it also depends on the school you're at, because there is inherent bias. There are people, if you go to Loyola, obviously, or Tulane, they're going to make more money. Firms going to offer them more money than a student from Southern, even though a student from Southern knows the law better than that Loyola student does, or that Tulane student. That's just the bottom line. They have set standards up, and they move the rules where you don't belong, or that this is what I'm going to give you. This is what black people should get. This is what this person should get. You're worth this much. And the NCAA is no exception to that. The NCAA makes billions and billions of dollars on the Final Four. They make billions of dollars on these college football championship, the Sugar Bowl, the Iron Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, everything. And most of the kids that play in these programs happen to be Black Americans. And these programs obviously are at predominantly white institutions, not historically black colleges and universities. Now, the other day, a brother that you all may know, he previously worked for ESPN. He works now for Fox Sports News, Chris Broussard, who happens to be from New Orleans. He's from Louisiana. He's a graduate of Southern University, if I'm not mistaken. He's also a Kappa.
They're calling it the Rich Paul Rule, which is appropriate, but I'm going to call it something else. Straight up racism. But instead of crying, complaining, and begging, it's time for black people to take action. You fight power with power. And one of our greatest sources of power is our athletic dominance. So I'm calling on all of our great black football and basketball players. Instead of going to these big universities that chew you up, spit you out, and don't care about you, go to an HBCU, a Howard, Morehouse, Hampton, Xavier of New Orleans, and many other schools. I know some of them are still the dollars you generate and many other schools. I know some of them are still NCAA, but at least the millions of dollars you generate would go to benefiting black people who are in dire need of economic empowerment. Secondly, our professional athletes, instead of giving $2-3 million donations to these big schools that you stayed at for a year or two, give it to an HBCU programs and facilities.
All right, so you heard from Chris Broussard. He's 100% right. I agree with him that this would be the best appropriate action. But what will the NBA players really do? Are they honestly going to do that because it doesn't affect them anymore? They're not in school. They're not in college anymore. I honestly don't see them doing anything. Maybe LeBron might change the game, may do something. But when these men have made it, or so-called, they've reached their pinnacle of success, when they get money, millions of dollars, sometimes these men, it's hard for them to give back. And part of it is they have a brand. And so if they take a particular stand on something, many of them will not do anything. We live now in an age where we worry about ourselves and the other man. It's about getting mine and not helping the man behind you. To hell with them. I got mine. Why they don't have theirs? And I'm not saying that LeBron, necessarily, like I said, yes, he does give back to the community and so forth, but you won't see any of these brothers. I would not put, this is not a knock against LeBron, but I could not put LeBron James in the same category as, Muhammad Ali or Jim Brown or even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I know that he does some activism in his community. He talks about some things sometimes, but even with the Tamir Rice situation, LeBron even said he didn't know anything about it, which was a plain shock, which I couldn't even fucking believe because LeBron is from Cleveland. I mean, how do you not know about it? That was one of the top stories in Cleveland at the time when you were playing there. He certainly knew about Trayvon Martin when that happened because he was in Miami, Florida, and of course the Trayvon Martin incident was in Florida. They took the whole Miami Heat team taking pictures with the hoodies on their heads. So, I don't know if Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, any of those guys, what their thoughts are about it. But remember, I'll never forget when the incident with Donald Sterling happened and the LA Clippers having their jerseys flipped inside out. That was their way of protesting it. I'm like, dude, really serious. Just think about this for a minute. If all of the NBA players decided and NFL players decided this is not right, we're not going to play. Same thing with the NFL. If they said it's not right what's going on with Kaepernick, if they decline not to play, especially after the comments that President Trump, President 45, made about black people, about the players on the NFL that took a knee. If they decided, you know what, that's what you think. Oh, we're not playing. Same thing that happened in Texas with the Houston Texans when Bob McNair made the comment, we can't have the inmates run the prison. And if those men stated we're not playing, then the NFL would lose money. And of course, those teams would have to come and they would talk to the players about what happened because their bottom line, which is the dollar, because that's always what speaks, would be affected by that. So this is a racist rule. This is racism. And yes, when he talked about, Brother Broussard talked about joining HBCUs, which is great. But of course, the HBCUs are still under their sports programs, are still under the NCAA. And speaking of that, I remember a time when, let's say the Bayou Classic, which is the annual Grambling versus Southern game that's held in New Orleans is always played, how that used to come on national television. It was a primetime event. HBCU football games used to come on in the 80s and 90s on primetime television. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't think of any I can't think of any major athlete right now that necessarily who's making, you know, millions that came out of an HBCU. Like it doesn't exist. And that's because the guidelines and the rules have been set up where today's everyone, not all of them, but that the white man's ice is colder. In other words, I'm going to get the best that I can, and it's got to be from this white man because you're going to learn everything. And while it is true that many of them those schools have, for the most part, better resources, their alumni is stronger than some of our HBCUs. They can do fundraising at a drop of a hat, whereas many of the HBCUs, some of them can't. They don't have strong alumni support. They're also white, and they also have been given an advantage that many of the HBCUs now do not have, which is they are now the schools where the top education programs are. I'm sorry, athletic programs. Excuse me, athletic programs are. Let's just say come out of the poorest section in your city. You can now, and you're playing basketball with your friends. You want to be a star. You're a star basketball player in high school and in grad school earlier. Now you go to a white college, you get a full scholarship. Of course, and of course, on this scholarship, you're going to be playing primetime games. You're going to be playing on ESPN. You're going to possibly have a chance to play on CBS for the Final Four. People are going to watch you, and unfortunately, our people we're always put at a disadvantage. So it would be great and wise if many of these players, if they did decide now what I want to go to an HBCU, or if the athletes now who didn't, like a LeBron James, LeBron didn't go to college, but LeBron has enough money if he decided he could sponsor an entire HBCU, sponsor that whole school if he decided. Just like I'll never forget, remember when Dr. Dre, who bought Beats, he gave all of this money to the Beats, all of this money to the USC in order to build their music program up. Well, the president of Dillard here in New Orleans, his name escapes me, he called out Dr. Dre about this, saying how Dr. Dre, who was a black man, who grew up a poor black man in California, raised by his mother, he had an opportunity to donate some of that money to an HBCU. Now, yes, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. But if we are trying to really succeed as a people, we got to support each other. You can't expect to hire an attorney, and I'm even preferencing stuff that I go, and expect a discount. Especially when you go to a black attorney, people are asking for a hookup. So many times I've had people call me about this. Well, I can't pay this and pay that. But if you went to the white man, it's just a perfect example. You went to a white lawyer, and he's going to charge you $3,500. Probably more than that. Let's say I charge $15 on one case. You're going to want to do a payment plan. But some of our people, if a white lawyer says, I need a $6,000 retainer, you think they're going to question that? They'll question you, but they won't question him. And I probably would be doing more work than his ass would. That's just the truth. We don't support each other. So we're gonna protest, but we gotta remember we need a base. Give money to your base. When they did the civil rights movement, when the civil rights movement happened, when Dr. King was going all through these places in Selma and Birmingham and DC, when they had the Freedom Ride tours, they had places where they could lay their heads at least when they were doing business. We supported each other. We knew who the enemy was. Even when Malcolm X and Thurgood Marshall and Dr. King didn't see eye to eye on things, they had a common enemy. They understood racism a little bit better, I think, than some of us even do now, because it's more silent. Now, Donald Trump, he has changed the game where these things are now out in the open. Things that obviously you would see in the 50s and 60s and quieted down in the 70s and even through the 2000s, it has slowly crept and come up, and he's changed the playbook. Game has changed, ladies and gentlemen. So what are you prepared to do? Support each other. I support brother Chris Broussard's opinion. I think we should start supporting our HBCUs a little bit more. You know, and funny, I mentioned Bill Cosby. He was one of the biggest supporters of HBCUs. You all know that from the Cosby Show. Even if he didn't give money, the fact that he put a jersey on that said Howard University, that said Xavier or Dillard, that meant something. That made kids go to school. Michael Jackson even gave, I think, more money to HBCUs than Cosby did. Anyway, guys, let me just get out of here. Look, check out the movie. I'm going to check it out, too. I'm going to give a review. The Brian Banks story. That's actually been released in theaters now. Y'all should go see that. It's about the brother who got framed for rape and got a second chance. But it's very interesting when you hear about that now. That's coming out, and then you have, the Bill Cosby appeal that's being heard on Monday, and all of this stuff is going on. There's a pattern to this. You guys have a great weekend. Love you all. Be back to do some more videos. If you have not, please subscribe to my channel. Y'all peace out.